Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out the second massive action figure. There are only two currently in this line, and we have the brand new Quetzalcoatlus. We have had a Quetzalcoatlus released from Mattel in the past, although this one looks way better than the first one. The first one was definitely cool, but this one looks like miles better, I think, than the older one. As far as the packaging goes, you can see that we have the usual Jurassic World Dominion box art with a nice image of Rexy over there. And then, of course, our Quetzalcoatlus here in all its glory before us. And then if we turn the box around, you can see a really nice image here on the back showing off our Quetzalcoatlus, as well as kind of, sneak peeks of the action feature. And then down here, an image of the Yanchuanosaurus, which we have reviewed here on the channel. And then, of course, the DNA scan code. So let's go ahead, pop this out of the box and check it out. And then here is our Quetzalcoatlus. Man, is that ever nice. Previously, I would have said the Sungaripterus might have been my favorite pterosaur from Mattel for the Jurassic World line, but I think this Quetzalcoatlus might have that one beat. This thing is an absolute beast of a Quetzalcoatlus figure. I can say that already. That head sculpt is absolutely gorgeous. So I'm really excited to take a closer look at this. Let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Quetzalcoatlus, you can see straight away that the paintwork is really nice, but the detailing as well is very nice. You can see some beautiful detailing here in the beak of the Quetzalcoatlus. It's not super visible until you really start to turn it and allow the light to hit it. And then I feel like it really shows off just how impressive the sculpting and detailing aspect of the Quetzalcoatlus really is. You've got the nostrils sculpted very nicely. You have a very dark coloration, like a black for the majority of the face, but you have some nice splotches of orange here running along the top of the beak and kind of splotching down right there. You also have a little bit more of that orange there around the eye, kind of splotching down there into the eye socket area and then down under. And then we have some really nice, very appealing looking blues that have the same similar design to the orange, but up here on the crest. The detailing of the crest as well looks fantastic. You do have an articulated jaw, and on the inside of the mouth you can see that we have the tongue sculpted out in there, as well as some very nice detailing there to the upper side of the inside of the mouth, and everything sports a very nice, very realistic gloss coat like you would hope to see on the Mattel figures like this. The recent Yanchuanosaurus, though, actually didn't really sport much of a gloss coat on the inside of the mouth, which was pretty shocking. The eye is painted with a green, and we do have a nice black pupil for the eye. You can see that we have some nice feathering up here on the top, some beautiful pycnofibers as you run down the course of the pterosaur. And you also see that we transition again to a nice grayish tone of color. We have the black that runs along the back of the neck here down until about here, starts to transition away. But we have some nice grays here for the majority of the neck. And as you move down the neck, you can kind of see like the tensing and everything in the neck of our Quetzalcoatlus, again, as well as the really nice pycnofibers running down the course of the neck of the figure. As you continue to move down, this area is a little bit of a downside because we do have the scan code and action feature button up here, which is really, visible. It's very plain and obvious that it's there, but that's just kind of the way it is because, of course, it's a toy. It's not meant to be a highly detailed model. But when it comes to an awesome Jurassic World toy, this is, again, a fantastic version of a Quetzalcoatlus from what I can see so far. More pycnofibers, very abundant through the course of the Quetzalcoatlus, exactly like you would like to see. You can also see that we have kind of like some splotchy blacks and stuff showing up here and there through the course of the figure. The wings are folded in currently, but of course we can open the wings up. I'd say right about there is the most natural position for them. As you move out here into the wing, you can see the bone structure looks very nice moving out here into the hand of the pterosaur. You've got some nice scoots down the fingers there and some very nicely sculpted nails. No paintwork for the nails, but they do include a very nice gloss coat. And I love the tones of color chosen for the wing of the Quetzalcoatlus, similar to what we saw on the minifigure version, as we have this nice dark brown up here that kind of splotches down here into the lighter kind of tannish brown. I actually think it looked a little nicer on the minifigure version, but it still looks really good here on this larger version. And again, as you run along the wing, you can see that the actual skin texture looks phenomenal on the figure. Very nice, really quite impressive skin detail for the wings. And then, of course, you can move out the other side of the wing And then you don't want to move it too far, because once you move it too far, of course, this disconnects and then it looks super awkward. Maybe something that could be considered maybe a slight downside is the fact that it kind of disconnects like that, but there's really nothing you can do about it. But you can see again that the detailing and paintwork looks exactly the same over here as it just did on the initial side, which means it looks great. And I love the fact that we have that dark brown that really splotches everywhere. Like, it's not just right here and then ends like you often see on a lot of Mattel figures. Like, you can see the splotchy brown pretty much appearing through the entire wing, which definitely gives it a very nice, very appealing look overall. And then you can see that we have the tail as well as the legs down here, the undersides to the feet. Looks like we might have like a little chip of paint or something right there, but you can see like the curves in the toes. It looks really nice here on the undersides of the feet. And you can also see the claws also sport a gloss coat down here, but yet again, no actual nail paint. And then looking at the pterosaur from the underside, you can see how nice the upper side of the feet looks. Really nice scoots down the toes. Again, the very, well, if it would focus on it, the very nicely sculpted out nails. And then as you move up here into the legs, you can really see the pycnofibers picking up, as well as like the kneecaps showing off very nicely there in the sculpt. And again, very abundant pycnofibers through the course of the figure, exactly like you would like to see on a Quetzalcoatlus. And you can see more of that kind of splotchy coloration. Something that Mattel has really been doing a lot lately that I've been a big fan of is adding some of that kind of splotchy coloration. And you see that here on the undersides of the wings, unlike the minifigure where you had that kind of same style of coloration as what we saw on the upper side. On the underside of the wings here on this larger massive action version, you can see we basically just have the light gray, which is the primary body color here for the underside, but you can see that we do also have kind of like some splotches of that very dark gray or black, whatever you would like to call the coloration there on the face. And you can see that's exactly the same way it looks over here. So although it's not really that great as far as the coloration on the underside, they did include some extra paintwork when it comes to that kind of splotchy coloration, and I definitely really like that they've been doing that. You can see another area here on the underside as far as the button for yet another action feature. As we move up here through the length of the neck, you can see the throat moving up here toward the beak of our Quetzalcoatlus. Just an absolutely beautiful looking, it's got to move back a little bit farther, but just an absolutely beautiful looking Quetzalcoatlus figure from Mattel. I am a huge fan of this release. As far as articulation and all that fun stuff, again, we do have the articulation in the jaw. We also have articulation in the neck right there. It can go up and down. I don't know if it can swivel. Yes, it absolutely can swivel, so we have some nice articulation there. And then, of course, you have the wings, where you can move them up, you can move them down. They do, of course, also bend into the body right there. And then we also have the leg articulation, which does move independently, which is really surprising. I didn't expect that. Most times you kind of, look, you could just have him sitting there. Now he's just relaxing. But most times you usually don't have articulation individually in the legs. They usually move together. And then the DNA code is here on the back of the pterosaur. Probably should have shown this off earlier in the better light rather than here in the darkness. I do apologize for that. But I do think that they've done a fairly good job of hiding it on the back of the Quetzalcoatlus. And then we also have one of the action feature buttons right here, so we'll go ahead and do that. So you can clearly see that that operates the flapping feature of the wings. Oh, I was missing it right there. Works pretty nicely. And then we also have a button on the underside for a jaw snapping action feature. We're going to go ahead and lay this down right there like this for a moment to get a length on our pterosaur from the beak to the feet. Actually, I guess, yeah, I think maybe the feet would be the right way to go. You're looking at about 11 3/4 inches, closing in on 12 inches or about 30 centimeters. And then for a wingspan on the pterosaur, when the wings are connected, in the right correct way, you are looking at about the 16 1/4 inch range, or around the 41.5, closing in on 42 centimeters. For a size comparison, I think the best way to show off the size of the pterosaur is to have it standing up there against the wall. But you can see that the size of the Quetzalcoatlus is really quite large. Definitely a very impressive size. You can see it far exceeds the height of the Papo Rex, which is a pretty decent sized figure in his own right. But for another comparison, we'll use a few figures that we've been using quite often lately. There is the Extreme Damage Velociraptor. We've also got a Jurassic Park, or actually I should say Jurassic World Ceratosaurus, even though it's a JP3 Ceratosaurus, but it was released by Hasbro, so we've got the Hasbro Ceratosaurus there. And then we've also got ourselves the Kenner Young Rex right there. And then also the Roar Attack Ankylosaurus, Bumpy the Ankylosaurus. Again, you can really see how large the Quetzalcoatlus is. I would say it's probably a similar size as the previous Quetzalcoatlus. And to show you that, there is the previous Quetzalcoatlus from Mattel next to the more recent Quetzalcoatlus. And I will say I actually am still a huge fan of the original version. I think the original version is great as well. But pull them both down here without taking the backdrop out. The one that I have here looks like he's got a little bit of a warped beak. I actually have this one here to repaint. And he's been sitting in a box with some other figures, I think, piled on top of him. Must have warped his jaw a little bit, and I'll have to get that back to working order. But you can definitely see right there when it comes to the head sculpts and everything, a very large difference when it comes to the detailing aspect on the older one compared to the newer one. And then for one more comparison, there is the Massive Action Yanxuanosaurus next to our Massive Action Quetzalcoatlus. Again, showing you that the Quetzalcoatlus is really quite large, but if you have the previous Quetzalcoatlus, you definitely already can tell exactly pretty much what the size of the figure is. So this Massive Action Quetzalcoatlus from Mattel for the Jurassic World Dominion line is a really nice figure and definitely one that I'm psyched to have. I think the sculpt perfectly replicates what we've seen so far of the Quetzalcoatlus from Jurassic World Dominion. I definitely feel like they nailed it as far as that goes. Very nice, very fine detail through the course of the entire figure. Beautiful pycnofibered-like look. Fantastic texturing to the skin, especially in the skin flap areas of the wings. The beak sports some beautiful detail, and the paint application as well is fantastic. If it would have had a little bit of alternate coloration on the underside and painted nails, I feel like it definitely would have been one of the nicer figures as a whole when it comes to the paint on the newer Mattel Jurassic World Dominion figures. But even without those aspects of the paint application, it's still a fantastic paint job, and I feel like Mattel did do a very good job, especially when you look at that head. That head is so striking when it comes to the coloration as well as the application of the paint. It does have a really fun action feature, pretty much what you would expect when it comes to a Quetzalcoatlus, so that is fun as well. And you also have some decent articulation, nothing amazing, but some articulation that works really well nonetheless. So as a whole, another fantastic release from Mattel for the Jurassic World Dominion line, and another release that I highly recommend picking up. So if you are interested, I will include a link in the description to where you can purchase this on Target.com, or of course you could head to your local Target and pick it up there for yourself. One way or another, I definitely recommend grabbing it, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.